The Shadows of Ashwood. Chapter 1. A New Beginning. As I stepped onto the weathered porch, my eyes wandered over the quaint cottage before me. A relic from another era with its rustic charm and moss-covered roof. The sleepy town of Ashwood welcomed me with an eerie silence, as if holding its breath in anticipation of my presence. After completing college, this new chapter of life was precisely what I needed to escape the ghosts of my past, to rediscover myself amidst the whispering shadows of memories that haunted me. My heart raced with excitement mixed with a dash of trepidation, an unspoken fear that perhaps there were some things in this world even academia couldn't teach. Like truly being alive. As I surveyed the cottage, the worn wooden door creaked open with a sigh, as though it too had been waiting for me. Inside, the air clung to a musty aroma of forgotten years and dust that tickled my nostrils. A faint chill ran down my spine as I fumbled for the key in my pocket, trying to ignore the unsettling feeling that an unblinking gaze followed my every move from within its depths. The sun cast its last rays through the old windows, casting eerie silhouettes across the walls like specters dancing on the parchment of time. My mind conjured images from childhood tales of houses with hidden souls, but I dismissed them as whimsical fabrications. This was real life now. New beginnings in a new place, not folklore. The first few days passed like autumn leaves drifting lazily down a gentle brook, each day falling into the rhythm of my routine. Morning coffee on the porch, riding in the attic with the wind as companion, and evenings lost in bookshelves filled with volumes that spoke tales of long-lost worlds. But then there was the night I saw him, tall, gaunt, watching me from behind a leafy oak tree. Shadows obscured his features, leaving only an unsettling presence that lingered after he vanished into darkness. The following morning brought another peculiar sighting. My journal opened to a page I hadn't touched in weeks with words penned by an unfamiliar hand. They're always watching. At first, I brushed it off as fatigue and the lingering effects of exhaustion from the move. Yet, the ink seemed fresh on those pages. As days turned into weeks, other things began to unsettle me. Objects misplaced or moved subtly, a rustling in the walls at night, the unmistakable feeling of being watched when alone under the moonlight. I'd wake to find antique trinkets rearranged. Once I had a music box on my nightstand, and the next morning it would be gone. I dismissed these events as an anomaly, or perhaps the house settling with age, but couldn't shake the sense of being observed, as if unseen eyes bore into my very soul during those long hours of solitude. There were whispers too, soft murmurs that carried no words, yet echoed through my dreams and awoke me drenched in sweat under the oppressive weight of an unseen presence. In the quiet evenings, I'd hear muffled voices, but when I stepped outside, there would be silence, only darkness. Shadows seemed to dance on the walls and windows as if trying to communicate with me. One night's tranquility was shattered by a harsh whisper that cut through the stillness. "Run!" It reverberated in my mind like a primal warning. Heart racing, I fumbled for a flashlight and poked my head out of the attic window. A dark silhouette stood beneath the oak where my nocturnal visitor had first appeared. Inching closer, I caught a glimpse of his profile before he vanished in a thin air once more, leaving behind an object that would change everything. A weathered locket with a faded photograph inside. The man within wore a somber smile and piercing eyes. His face reminded me of a painting from childhood tales of ancestors past, but felt eerily familiar. In the morning light, I studied it under the attic's faint glow, tracing his lips, nose, and the unmistakable glint in those eyes. Recognition hit, like an autumn gust. He looked akin to portraits I'd seen at my grandparents' ancestral home. I packed a small suitcase and drove across town to their estate, heart pounding against my ribcage as the road unwound between trees that seemed to lean closer with each passing mile. As I stepped into the musty hallway, an air of familiarity enveloped me. The locket's owner stared back from faded photographs, his face etched in both joy and sorrow within a warm embrace. A family heirloom? Intrigue mingled with the unsettling feeling of something more as grandmother Ella greeted me warmly, yet her eyes lingered on the locket as though she knew its story. Your grandfather's portrait, she said matter-of-factly, passing it over her wrinkled hands. Come with me, dear. She led me to a hidden room that felt untouched since his departure decades ago. Old letters, worn photographs, and an antique journal bound in leather adorned with strange symbols. The tome was opened at a page, words that made no sense until I noticed the date scribbled on top. August 31st, 1957. A name appeared, cut into the parchment as if carved by a knife. Thaddeus Blackwood. Each entry spoke of unseen entities lurking in Ashwood's woods and the Blackwoods' role in their lives. They were hunted. A sense of dread ripened within me. Ella watched me intently before speaking in hushed tones about ancestors who'd faced inexplicable happenings, tales passed down through generations that defied explanation. The locket was said to be a key. Not just any key, but one to understanding their struggles against an evil that seeped from the woods. With every word she uttered, Ashwood's quietness receded. I sensed ears tuned into our conversation, as if unseen listeners had awakened at the mention of Thaddeus Blackwood. That night, under the full moon, I crept back to the attic and found another entry in my journal. Words that sent icy tendrils down my spine. Thaddeus fell asleep alone tonight. Tonight they'll take him. It was then that I realized my new home wasn't just a refuge from reality, but a battleground with forces beyond our world. Chapter 2. The Unwanted Guest. Dread and curiosity wrestled for dominance as the days blended together in Ashwood's monotony. Ella offered sage advice. The locket held power to protect or invite them. How I wielded it was the question. I carried it like a talisman, studying by the attic window under the glow of a single lamp. One evening, an unsettling silhouette stood outside my room. When I peeked out, it vanished at my gaze. That night, a rustling in the walls awakened me, as if unseen hands were shifting things inside. I crept downstairs to find a music box on my mantel, lid open and lullaby swirling, hauntingly beautiful, an eerie melody that sent shivers down my spine. In the morning's golden light, it was gone. The whispers intensified. Now they came from all corners of the cottage. Shadowy figures darted at the edges of vision when I ventured outside during moonless nights, each increasingly bold and close. I tried to attribute these developments to exhaustion, but couldn't shake the feeling the town held its breath in anticipation of something. Each day, Ella's warnings echoed my growing suspicions. Keep it hidden. Yet, curiosity compelled me to uncover this mystery before being devoured by fear or madness. My investigations led to Thaddeus' diary entries. Each recounted encounters with faceless beings that defied logic and light. I found mention of a ritual where he sought protection, and it failed, leading to the tragedy Ella hinted at. On the journal's last page was a sketch. An oval door hidden within the woods, pulsing with an ethereal glow. Night arrived with an ominous calm. Flickering lanterns illuminated a path into the forest I never knew existed. Shadows danced ahead as if drawn to me. They had been since that night. At the oval door, the locket's chain broke free and I entered, descending a flight of stairs in a pulsing darkness. Inside, a figure, Thaddeus, stood amidst shadows, beckoning my approach. An unseen presence clutched at my arm, but retreated upon seeing me wearing his image from that day and night long past. "They're coming," he whispered before disappearing into the shadows as I fled back to the cottage, locket clutched tightly. The whispers intensified, a cacophony within the walls, urging me out of bed. Outside, they converged under the moonless sky. A group encircled my house, their faces obscured by shadowed hoods. My car wouldn't start. I walked into the heart of this unending night toward that oval door. In its light, the hooded figures parted to reveal Thaddeus. Face pale, eyes sunken, and a pleading expression. As I approached, shadows began to coalesce behind him. The wind carried an unearthly chant as the last veil of sanity hung taut. He begged me for protection now that his had failed. Not everyone survives. Something vast, cold, and ancient emerged from their midst. Eyes ablaze in darkness. Shadows detached and converged on us. I clutched the locket to my chest as they closed in. They were faceless beings no photograph or story could encapsulate. Thaddeus fell before them. My skin sizzled with ice, got cold sweat beneath his lifeless body. His words echoed, "Keep it hidden," but it was too late. As I stumbled back towards the cottage, an unseen force pinned me to a tree trunk. A hooded figure emerged from darkness. The same eyes in that locket, now alive within their flesh. Ella's warnings resounded through my mind as he spoke his name and demanded the relic. Caleb Thaddeus Blackwood. In terror, I relinquished it. Shadows enveloped him before dispersing. Chapter 3. The Final Revelation. Daybreak found me huddled beneath a tree, shaken by what had transpired. The wind bore the man's plea. Evelyn. Shadows encircled the cottage. They'd taken more than just Thaddeus' life. They sought to claim mine. At dawn's edge, an inhuman procession of faces emerged from the woods, each a twisted reflection of myself, as if I gazed into a hellish mirror. They spoke with the tongues of centuries past and present. Your father's daughter, our prize. My car roared back to life. As I fled, an unseen force slammed me against the wheel. I couldn't outrun them. In desperation, I opened Thaddeus' journal. An ancient language adorned the pages. Symbols from his sketches seemed to dance under the fading light before the oval door slid shut behind me, sealing me in this abyss. The locket now bore my name as the chant echoed within and without. A hooded form was thrown out of their midst. They converged upon him. In desperation, I spoke the language, hoping it might protect or repel them. His voice carried on wind currents. I am Thaddeus Blackwood. Run, Evelyn, for your life. The journal became my prayer as night fell, and I navigated darkness by moonlight, following a narrow path. Shadows pursued, drawing closer with every step. When dawn broke, the locket had fallen. I wore it now. Their chanting grew louder, an eerie hymn that echoed back from the heart of Ashwood's woods. A gust nearly toppled me as I crossed into town, dazed and shaken by their presence. They followed until I reached safety in my home, hushed within its walls once more. Ella awaited, tears welling in eyes worn with a life of secrets. You must protect yourself. Shadows skittered along the walls and dissipated when I turned to face her. The locket pulsed under moonlight as if demanding use or hiding. Protection was never mentioned. A silent understanding passed between us. I practiced the symbols from Thaddeus' journal, hoping against hope the power of a forgotten language could shield me. They found me each night, their cacophony changing, a chorus calling me back to those woods. The locket's pulsation quickened as I harnessed the ancient tongue with every passing night. In a burst of courage or madness, I walked towards them under their watchful gaze until they vanished in darkness, replaced by the ethereal light of dawn. They would return for what was mine. Caleb Thaddeus Blackwood's life began anew. Though his spirit wasn't free, he lingered as an apparition, a harbinger between worlds. I couldn't protect others, but perhaps myself and those who followed in darkness. I lived with this weight of power, to wield light against the forces that haunted souls through time, a guardian or a conduit for hell's whispers on earth. And they would one day come again. A life born from shadows was not mine. It belonged to my mother's bloodline. Protector or prey, the oval door became a portal within my dreams. In slumber, I could feel their call, and with each waking dawn, the pulse grew stronger until the ritual of Thaddeus protection wore off, leaving me exposed as before. Faceless beings at our back door when night arrived, demanding a balance. My mother's dark inheritance bore weight. Caleb awakened amidst that chanting in darkness. An eternal guardian, protector of lives I never knew existed, yet doomed to relive them all. The locket pulsed brighter still. I was their conduit to this world now. As dawn broke, they dispersed into the woods, and I awoke at home. It seemed madness had become my life. In that abyss of shadowed faces, Caleb Thaddeus Blackwood's fate was sealed. They came back with more purpose, drawn by blood, a calling in the depths of their twisted hearts. Their chant grew louder, and they spoke my name. I felt them at dusk when darkness fell on days to come. And so, I began walking away from the faceless ones that night, hoping dawn would find me far from Ashwood's woods. I didn't walk fast enough or run hard enough until dawn found me in another place. Yet they followed. Caleb Thaddeus Blackwood was no longer alone. Their call echoed. Their dark power grew stronger with each day and year. It only intensified as my mother's bloodline waned, a promise of a new beginning. They would find me out, that they always did, and yet the locket remained unbroken by time or distance, an object of otherworldly power that chose to be near me still. In the end, I could not escape what you are, what I am. The day Caleb Thaddeus Blackwood took his final breath was the last day he walked. The oval door in my chest pulsed with a ferocious strength as their shadowy procession dispersed into darkness, carrying with it something left within my heart. A piece of me now long gone. In that light-filled room, I saw him again. Caleb Thaddeus Blackwood is dead. Yet they were coming for what remained, his spirit trapped in the darkness he had sought to escape. They'd come for you when I was gone. Only time would tell if he had not passed it on. The pulse slowed, and the oval door sealed shut as dawn broke. A new cycle began. Caleb Thaddeus Blackwood's body lay within the cottage. They left an heir, born of darkness, to take his place. He became my father in that moment before their call echoed once more beneath the moonless sky. I ran, away from Ashwood, but shadows pursued me relentlessly until I realized you were there, and you were them.